This make-ahead mac and cheese is extra creamy so that it freezes perfectly, making it the ultimate Thanksgiving hack to save you time and kitchen efficiency for one of the biggest cooking days of the year, Thanksgiving. I call it the Thanksgiving scramble, you might call it the Thanksgiving dance, but making this mac and cheese the specific way, how creamy I'm gonna make it, is gonna make it thaw out and heat up really nicely in the oven on the big day. First and foremost is the cheese. I've got 8 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. I'll probably use it all between mixing it in to make the actual sauce and to top it. I've got a half gallon of milk. I'm not gonna use all this. I'll probably use about 3/4 of it. I've got salt and black pepper. You can use white pepper as well. I like black pepper better in it. I've got 3/4 cups of unsalted butter. Unsalted is key here because I'm gonna salt it myself. I've got some flour for the roux, and I've got a pound of pasta. I've got my salted water boiling for my pasta, which I'm gonna throw in a minute. Then we got our other pot where we're gonna make the cheese sauce. Typically on Thanksgiving, you're cooking a bunch of different recipes, and a lot of them don't need to be cooked or prepped until the last hour or two before you're eating. It's all about time management. It's nothing that hard to make most of the time. Cook your dry pasta just under whatever the instructions say, because once we reheat it in the oven, it's gonna cook a little more. So we don't want those noodles to get too mushy and squishy, you know? Cut your butter up into chunks so it melts a little quicker. Just gonna cut it up into bigger cubes. Once our pot's nice and hot, we wanna make sure we've got our salt, pepper, our flour ready to go, as well as our milk. Because this next process, it's gonna kinda happen fast. The key thing when you're making a roux is to only cook it until it starts smelling a little nutty. There's different kinds of roux you can make, but for the specific one, once it starts smelling nutty, we're gonna mix it really quick, continuously scraping the bottom so it doesn't burn on the bottom of the pan. All right, in goes our butter. This next process, we're gonna have to be quick about it. Once all this butter melts, we're gonna start adding in our flour just until it starts getting to the right consistency to build our roux up. Smells amazing already. Just butter. The important part is to not burn our roux. So as soon as the roux starts getting that nutty smell to it and that texture that we want to see, we're gonna add in our milk. Keep stirring up our overflowing noodles. I'm sure I'll get some hate on this, but I don't really care. They'll cook fine. Now that our butter is melted, we're gonna start throwing in our flour. Just throw a little on at a time, because remember, you can't take it out once it's in. We're going to use a pretty good amount. Constantly stir it. We're going to try not to have it too clumpy in here. We want it to be a nice texture. Let's see how this does for us. So you can tell the textures are already starting to get there a little bit. We're going to need a little more flour. I'll do this quick so I don't burn it. Oh yeah. Alright, stir this puppy up quick. There we go. See how it's starting to get a little more together right now? It's coming off the pan itself. It almost looks like porridge, or what's that shit called? Not oatmeal. Oh man, I can't think of it. Oh, cream of wheat. It kind of looks like cream of wheat a little bit. Now it's starting to get that nice nutty smell to it as well. We're going to add in a little cracked pepper, quick, and a little salt, since this is unsalted butter. Stir it up fast so it doesn't burn. Alright, we're just about ready to add in our milk. Alright, in goes the milk. Oh my gosh, it's solidified. What is going on here? Ooh, that's some fresh milk. Had some cream on the top. Like I said, we're probably going to use about 3/4 of this half gallon. So about 5 or 6 cups or so, or whatever that is. We're going to stir it up nicely, make sure none of that roux is stuck to the bottom, or it'll burn. I bet one of you is cursing me out right now watching this pasta in the background not being fully submerged in water. It's okay though, remember, it's gonna cook more in the oven once it reheats. To make sure that all the clumps are out too, you can hit it with a little whisk even. It'll help scrape the bottom of the pan a little too. So basically what we're doing now is letting the milk heat up enough to be able to melt the cheese. You can see how the milk is already getting thick itself. It's a beginning of a bechamel right now. Oh yeah, it's already really creamy as it is. It's going to get that much creamier once we add in all the cheese, which we'll add in just a minute as soon as I drain this pasta. Which some of you are probably looking at like, what the fuck are you doing, Steve? You didn't even cover all the pasta with water. But don't worry, we're going to be just fine. Now for the fun part, we're going to start adding in the cheese. Just adding a little bit at a time, constantly mixing it up. Oh man, this is going to be so creamy. So that's one of the big differences that it takes to freeze mac and cheese instead of eating it fresh. We want it extra creamy because once we freeze the sauce along with the noodles, all those noodles are going to absorb all this cheese. And if we don't make it that much creamier, it won't come out as good. It's not going to taste as good. Oh, look at that already. Yum. We'll take it off the burner a little. It's looking really good already. Add a little more cheese. Make sure you save some cheese to top the mac and cheese as well, because once we heat it back up in the oven, it'll get that nice crust on top if we layer the top with shredded cheese and then broil it. That is going to be delicious and is done. Ooh, man. Look at that. Yum. We've got our pan here. We're going to hit it with some butter. I've got this oat milk butter. I absolutely love this stuff. But we're using it because it's going to be a little easier to spread around in the pan. The other option, you could obviously just slightly melt or let the other kind of butter come up to room temperature, but this is just easier. It's already done, you know? It's already spreadable. Remember, when we heat back up the mac and cheese in this pan, all the outside of this pan is going to be cooking the noodles, so we want this nice layer of fat so it doesn't stick to the pan as much. We're going to add in our cooked pasta, just about half of it. And despite you yelling at the screen that I didn't submerge this pasta fully, I promise you it's fully cooked, or just under, honestly. It's basically just al dente, like just there. Because, like I keep saying, we're gonna cook it again in this pan on Thanksgiving Day. We don't want the noodles to be super mushy. So, yeah. Now we're gonna pour in about half of the cheese sauce. Ooh, this is super thick. It's gonna be amazing. So, pour in about half of the cheese sauce. Then we're gonna mix it up nicely. See how thick and creamy it is? That's because we're gonna freeze this. If I wasn't freezing it, it'd be a little looser, a little less creamy, and then it'd be good to eat. You can still obviously eat it this way right now, no problem, but now we're gonna add in the rest of our noodles. And the rest of our sauce. Spread it nice and evenly across the pan. Hopefully I put enough butter up the rims of this wall. Make sure to top it evenly with all the shredded cheese. Now you can freeze this for 3 months for sure, easy. This super creamy mac and cheese is ready for me to pop in the freezer now after I wrap it and label it. Just keep in mind, when you thaw it out for 24 to 48 hours, the day or 2 days before Thanksgiving. Pop it in the oven, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 30 minutes or so. Then we're gonna broil it for 2 to 3 minutes. If your broiler sucks like mine, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, but just until all this topped shredded cheese is nice, brown, and crispy on top. This is what I mean by the nice golden brown crust on top. That shredded cheese melts beautiful under a broiler for just a few minutes or so. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.